Thank you, Senator Warnock. I'll recognize myself for questions. First, to everyone here, just thank you for making yourselves available, and the support from family is great to see. Where I come from, that matters. And you all were willing to put a pause on your personal lives to be here to support people you love. Thank you. Ms. Gomez, welcome. It's good to see you, and I'm hopeful, based on what I heard today, that we could have 5 FCC commissioners here very soon, and an inspector general. I think that's critically important, but I hope everyone watching and reading will continue to send letters of support for you, because it's been incredible for me to see the letters of support that have come in for you, Ms. Gomez. And I appreciate that, and I want to thank everybody as well. Not to say that they're not coming in for you too, commissioners, but being that this is the first nomination, if you will, of what I hope will be many for Ms. Gomez. Now, Ms. Gomez, to me, it's vital to promote competition at the FCC and within the ability that we have to look at the industry to prevent digital redlining, to promote equal access and opportunity for everyone across America. That was the intent of the legislation leading to $65 billion, 42.5 for build out, in addition to additional appropriations to the NTIA in previous years. So in all of this, we also have to protect consumers. We have to support consumers. Now, my question to you is a simple yes or no, Ms. Gomez. Can the FCC do more to protect consumers?
Yes, Senator.
And what are your thoughts on how Congress and the FCC, with what we can do to guarantee consumer protections or protect privacy, promote competition among broadband providers?
Well, Senator, I think it's important that the FCC exercise its oversight over broadband internet access service. It is so central to our lives, to our economy, to innovation. It is just an incredibly important service to the nation and to its international competitiveness. As such, it needs to have the jurisdiction to perform that oversight. I do support Congress legislating if that is in the cards, but if not, I think I would support the FCC also acting to ensure that oversight.
I appreciate that, and that leads me to my next question. And Commissioner Starks, this is for you. Yesterday, an incredible leader in the House, Doris Matsui, was asking a series of questions around robocalls. I'm not going to ask everyone here to raise their hands if they don't like robocalls, because that'll take a long time. No one likes them. I got one just now. There was a spam call that just came across my mobile phone. Something's got to happen here. There's been efforts in the past. People have raised this. There's been legislation adopted. But bad people know how to find loopholes. Sometimes they create loopholes, and they exploit them. And this is the new way of theft, right? It's not that someone's necessarily going to grandma and grandpa's door. They're calling them on the phone. They're sending a spam text or email, and they get someone to click, and then they prey on them. And it's bad. And there's so much money being stolen from people. Yesterday, I was proud to introduce the FCC Legal Enforcement Act with Representative Matsui to ensure the FCC has the enforcement authority it needs to go after robocallers who break the law. Now, I know the FCC is working hard in this arena, as I said. I'm very concerned with these predatory actors who are getting more and more aggressive. So, Commissioner, again, yes or no, would increasing FCC enforcement authority help the agency crack down on robocalls?
Yes, it would, Senator.
I appreciate that very much. I hope we can get support to get this one done. Commissioner Carr, you and I agree that edge providers, the companies that benefit most from new broadband users online, should also contribute to universal service model connecting unserved and underserved communities. I think online advertising is a straightforward approach. Now, USF contributions are currently assessed on telecommunication services, we know, long distance calls, which the technology shifted, man. I mean, we've got to get this right. But in doing so, modernize the USF, which I appreciate that there's a bipartisan effort in the Congress, but the editorial that you also wrote on this. My question is, what do you see with the future of USF contributions?
Well, thank you, Senator, for the question. Thank you for your leadership on this. I know the task force that you're working on this issue is going to be very important. Simply put, the status quo is not acceptable. Universal service right now is stuck in a death spiral. The revenues that we assess, traditional telephone revenues, have declined from 80 or 90 billion a number of years ago down to 30 billion now. And so we have a 30% assessment in order to fill that USF expenditures right now. Left untouched, there's one study that showed that 30% could go to 75% assessment on top of a traditional telephone bill. I don't think that's sustainable. So I think now is the time that we have to have the conversations like you're doing in this task force to come up with a bipartisan view on the future of USF.
I appreciate that. Now, Ms. Gamlin, thank you as well for being here. And I look forward to your swift confirmation as well. You've been nominated for such an important job, given all the topics, the authorizations, the investment, the appropriation, taxpayer dollars that are being invested to improve everyday life all across America. Cracking down on that waste, fraud, and abuse is going to be critically important. As I just shared with robocalls, that's just one example of predatory folks that are out there. And I'm looking forward to the work that you'll do, and I'm hoping you won't find anything. But if you do, I certainly hope that there's swift action taken to make sure that people that are doing bad things are stopped. You have strong experience in public service, working with a wide array of agencies and departments. In my research, I was showing independence, which I appreciate. Now, yes or no, does strong coordination between agencies prevent government waste?
Yes.
Is there more ways we can work together to encourage, to bring these agencies a government-wide approach to improve interagency collaboration in these spaces?
Yes, thank you for the question. We need a whole-of-government approach to protecting federal funds, and that has been the movement. Recently, OMB issued a memo on that, talking about gold standard meetings and the need to meet with agencies, very similar to what Commissioner Carr had said before at the outset of funding, to share risks and ideas for protecting funds. And I've had experience throughout my career in this. At NSF, we had oversight over a $2 billion a year small business program, 2 programs that were administered through over 11 agencies. And what we did was we worked with the other OIGs, and we worked with the agencies, and we worked with law enforcement partners across the country to protect those funds. We brought everybody into the same room together. We trained, we provided outreach, and our goal was to help the agencies succeed. So thank you for that question.
I appreciate that. We had a wise governor that served the state of New Mexico, grew up on a ranch, and he was often quoted as saying that, you should bring them all in the barn and not let them out until they solve the problem. And sometimes my simple way of getting things done embraces that lesson that we learned from Governor King. One issue I did want to raise as we close out the hearing is on digital redlining and discrimination, to get some clarification, if I may, based on our visits, statements, things of that nature. And I've shared this with several of you, if not all of you, that I've spoken to. Recently, there was a submission by some folks into this particular rulemaking that said, quote, "It would be inappropriate to compare core urban or dense suburban area to a rural area," close quote. The analogy that was then given to me was, think of that long dirt road. And how do you connect everyone down that long dirt road based on what I just said? That's probably not going to be possible. Well, I live down a long dirt road, and I worked on this legislation. I voted on this legislation, and legislative intent to me seems that the priority was to connect unserved and underserved. It turns out there's a lot of them in rural America. So my question, Commissioner Starks, is this, do you believe that expected return from a low-income area is grounds for a company to discriminate, whether intentionally or unintentionally, against our most rural and most low-income communities while using government funds to build out their networks?
Absolutely not. I would not tolerate that.
I appreciate that. And Commissioner Carr, along the lines of the $42.5 billion in digital discrimination and the questioning from the ranking member as well, when we spoke, we were talking about the disparate impact question. And my recollection was when I asked a question, it was something, the response was, I still need to look at this or you're reading it, you're looking into it, and you're looking at the record, things of that nature. But what I heard with the response to Senator Cruz today was a more direct response associated to the disparate impact question. Can you provide some clarification for me to understand where things are and what I see as a change from the two?
Yeah, Senator, thank you so much. You know, my view, I think what I answered to the Senator was, I think something more than merely effect is what's needed. And I think that's the same thing I said to you, which is to say, there could be situations in which if you only have effect, that there could be other reasons to explain it. So for instance, the example that I gave was the LA County, LA City. So if all you have is data of effect, and that the answer to the reason for that effect is a regulatory regime that was very, very different, then that's a situation which I think effect alone isn't enough. I think what we talked about too is this idea is, do you need a smoking gun? Is that the only thing, a smoking gun intent to get us there? And I think no. I think there are things short of smoking gun that could be sufficient evidence to qualify for discrimination. So I think there is room between those two poles, and I'm very open-minded at this point as to how we sort of resolve that.
I appreciate that clarification. And what I want to close with is, look, there's a lot of rulemaking and work that goes on with telecommunication policy, whether it's at the FCC, NTIA, or state public regulation commissions. As many of you know, I was proud to serve on New Mexico's Public Regulation Commission, which is the equivalent to public utility commissions all across America. On my first day into that position, someone gave me something similar to this, which is Newton's Telecom Dictionary. And it's the worst of acronym soup. You know, you all probably know, I could go through here. I'm not going to quiz you. That's not what this is for. My point is, a lot of this is derived from legislative efforts, rulemaking, things of that nature. Some of it good, most of it good, but some of it, creating space for bad activity. And my point on all of this with the digital discrimination, with redlining, and I've shared this with industry, don't create the damn loopholes. I'm sorry to break decorum in here, but if we create a path for people to hide behind something and say, well, you know, what I'm doing is, you know, I don't even know what word to use. Make up a word. And then I'm going to say, that's what I'm doing. I'm making apple pie. I'm not discriminating against anybody. Then the people that we're trying to get connected are not going to get connected. And then we're going to be back again. I mean, this is the same thing with railroad safety. The reason that a lot of this nonsense is happening is because loopholes are created. And it's one thing to say something in public. It's another thing, no offense to the lawyers in the room or watching, when the legal teams responsible for working with the FCC in this case are filing their comments with the intent to make loopholes. Let's not let it happen. That's what I'm hoping we can do here. And well, I don't want to get into specific definitions. Don't create loopholes. Don't support creating loopholes. And to the industry, don't try to make loopholes. And then we won't have loopholes. And then everyone gets connected. So I'm just hoping that that's where we can get as well. Even though I'm one of the most junior members on the committee, someone made the mistake of giving me this when I walked in. So that's why I've gone over on my time. I apologize to all the staff and everyone I've kept here. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your commitments to doing good. We don't always agree on the approach, but we often agree on what we want to accomplish. And I hope that's the driver with all that we want to achieve here. There's so much on the line right now that I thank you for accepting these responsibilities at this moment in time. Now, before we close today's hearing, I have one more question, which is asked to all the nominees. If confirmed, will you pledge to work collaboratively with this committee, provide thorough and timely responses to our requests for information as we put together and address important policy issues and appear before the committee when requested? Mr. Starks?
Absolutely, yes.
Ms. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes, Senator.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Will I ask G that question? I appreciate the response. I'll leave it there. Now, thank you all for that commitment. Senators will have until close of business Tuesday, June 27th to submit questions for the record to the committee. Witnesses will have until close of business Wednesday, July 5th to respond to those questions. Now, thank you all very much. The hearing has concluded.